Good morning, friends. I hope that all of you are happy and healthy. Today, I would like to welcome in this video lecture. We will read a poem written by Kamla Das, that is The Dance of Eunuchs, in this video lecture. So, let us have the glimpse over the text of the poem. It was hot, so hot, before the eunuchs came to dance, wide skirts going round and round, cymbals richly clashing and anklets jingling, 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 beneath the fairy Gulmohar, with long braids flying, dark eyes flashing, they danced and they danced, oh, they danced till they bled. There were green tattoos on their cheeks, jasmines in their hair, some were dark and some were almost fair. Their voices were harsh, their songs melancholy. They sang of lovers dying and our children left unborn. Some beat their drums, others beat their sorry breasts and wailed and writhed in vacant ecstasy. They were thin in limbs and dry, like half burnt logs from the funeral pyres. A drought and a rottenness were in each of them. Even the crows were so silent on trees, and the children wide eyed still. All were watching these poor creatures' conversations. The sky crackled, then thunder came, and lightning and rain, a meager rain that smelt of dust in attics and the urine of lizards and mice. So, before we explain the poem, let us have the introduction of the poetess Kamla Das. Kamla Das was a Malayalam poetess, and she wrote in Malayalam also by the pen name Madhvi Kutti. So, Kamla Das, Malayalam pen name Madhvi Kutti, Muslim name Kamla Suraya. She was born on 31st March in 1934 in Thrissur, Kerala, and she died on May 31st, 2009 in Pune, India. She is an Indian author who wrote openly and frankly about female sexual desire and the experience of being an Indian woman. Thus was part of a generation of Indian writers whose work centered on personal rather than colonial experiences. And her short stories, poetry, memoirs, and essays brought her respect and notoriety in the equal measures. Das wrote both in English and under the pen name Madhu Kutti in the Malayalam language of southern India. So, here we came to know that Kamla Das used to write in English as well as in Malayalam. And in Malayalam, she wrote by the pen name Madhvi Kutti. The works of Kamla Das are more personal rather than the colonial experiences, and her poetry, her short stories, memoirs, and essays brought her both respect and notoriety in equal measures. So, this was about the poetess Kamla Das. Let us have a brief introduction of the poem also. The poem The Dance of Eunuchs included in the collection Summer in Calcutta, which was published in 1965. The Dance of the Eunuchs is one of the most remarkable poems of Kamla Das. This is another autobiographical poem written in confessional style that symbolically portrays the poetess' personal melancholy in her own life. Dance of the Eunuchs vividly conjures up the atmosphere of a hot, tortured, corrupt, and sterile and barren world through vivid symbols and images. The Dance of the Eunuchs, whose soulless life reflects the poet's fractured personality, is a noticeable piece of autobiographical poetry. Kamla Das has vividly visualized the world of vacant ecstasy and sterility through numerous functional images and symbols in her poetry. So, this poem, which tells about the dance of eunuchs, conveys the condition of the poetess herself. The poetess has tried to convey her personal feelings, her personal sadness or melancholy in her life through this poem. So, let us have the meaning or understanding of the poem line by line. It was hot, so hot before the eunuchs came. So, if you talk of the weather of the day, when the eunuchs came to dance on the day, that day was very hot. The scorching rays of the sun were heating the earth, and the eunuchs came to dance in the village. Wide skirts going round and round, and they were wearing wide skirts, and while they were dancing, their skirts went round and round and making a circle. Cymbals are the musical instruments which are made of brass metals, and it is known as jhanj or manjira. So richly clashing, so they were striking in a rich manner, and while they were striking with each other, they were making a musical sound, and anklets jingling, jingling, jingling. Though the eunuchs were wearing anklets in their legs, so while they were dancing, there was a jingling sound from those anklets beneath the fiery gulmohar with long braids flying. And all these things were happening under a gulmohar tree. So, under this gulmohar tree, all the eunuchs were dancing or playing on some musical instruments. So, while they were dancing, their tufts or long braids were flying in the air. Dark eyes of the eunuchs were flashing, shining. They danced and they danced. Oh, they danced till they bled. So they danced for a longer time until their legs started bleeding. So they danced for a longer time, and they were very, very sad that their sadness came in a different ways, and at last, while they were dancing, their legs or their body parts started bleeding. So in the first stanza we are told about the dance of the eunuchs. The eunuchs came into a rural village, rural India, and it is a scene of rural India, and in a village they came to dance, and they were making different kind of sounds with the help of musical instruments. So the first stanza describes the dance of the eunuchs. In the second stanza, we came to know about the physical appearances of the eunuchs. So let us read it. There were green tattoos on their cheeks, jasmines in their hair. So if we talk about their physical appearances, we see that there were tattoos on the cheeks of the eunuchs, and they were wearing jasmine flowers in their hair. Some were dark and some were almost fair. And if we talk about their physical complexion, we see that some of the eunuchs were dark in complexion and some of them were very fair. Their voices were harsh, their songs melancholy. And if we talk about the voice of the eunuchs, their voice was not so much melodious. It was harsh in nature, and the tone which came through the music, it was very sad tone, and the message or the songs were melancholic. They sang of lovers dying and or children left unborn. And if we talk about the theme of the songs, we know that they were singing of the lovers dying and the children left unborn. Some beat their drums, others beat their sorry breasts. And some of the eunuchs were beating drums, and some of them were beating their breasts. And wailed, they cried, wreathed means twisted, in vacant ecstasy. Ecstasy means pleasure, rapture. So there was no pleasure, no rapture, no happiness. It was totally vacant. So these eunuchs were twisted, they were crying, and there was no happiness in their life. They were thin in limbs and dry. And if we talk about the physical appearance of the eunuchs, we know that they were very thin, their body was very thin, and their limbs were dry, like half burnt logs from the funeral pyres, and their bodies compared to funeral pyres, half burnt logs. Half burnt logs are dried, and just like their body was. A drought and rottenness. There was a dryness, there was a rottenness, there was a decayed sense from their body were in each of them. So all the eunuchs, they were just dried skeletons. Their body had no charm, their body had no glimpse. So there is a sense of sadness from their physical appearance also. Even the crows were so silent on trees, and the children wide-eyed still. And if we talk of the spectators, we know that there were crows who were watching this dance, and these crows were sitting very silently in the trees. And if we talk of the children kept watching the dance, keeping their eyes wide open. In the next stanza, we know about the atmosphere of the time when the dance is about to be concluded, about to be finished. All were watching these poor creatures' convulsions. Convulsions means violent twist, violent actions while which they were performing through their dances. So all were watching these poor creatures' convulsions. These poor creatures is used for the word poor creatures is used for the eunuchs. So all these eunuchs were making violent actions through their dance. That is why their body parts were bleeding while they were dancing. So all people or the creatures who were watching them seriously, the sky crackled then suddenly the sky crackled, the sky made crackling sound, thunder came in the sky, and lightning. There was lightning, there was thundering in the sky, and then rain came. A meager rain that smelt of dust in attics and the urine of lizards, mice. But the amount or the rain was very meager. It was a light rain. It was a scanty rain. So there was only a smell of the rain in the dust or in the attics, and it could bring only urine to lizards and mice. So it brought no bigger difference in the scene, but there was a scanty or light rain while the dance concluded. So through this poem, the poetess tried to convey the message to the readers about the emptiness, about the sadness of her personal life. The poetess was not happy with her family life, with her personal life, and the same has been conveyed here through this imagery, through this poem. Various scenes or images are presented here which only make a sense of melancholy, make a sense of unhappiness or sadness, and the same was there in poetess' personal life. The same has been represented here. I hope that the message is very clear to you, and the poet is clear to you. The message of the poem is understandable to you, and we came to know after reading this poem that this poem is very much personal and confessional, and the poetess has tried to present her personal life through this poem. So I hope that you have understood the meaning of the poem line by line. Thank you for joining me. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.